Very well. Good afternoon, Simone. I hope you are keeping well.
Thank you.
As as you know, we are going through a midterm kind of review about our participation in the GBT project. And what I would like to talk to you at this stage about is the actual implementation within your organization and the kind of feedback on the particular games or the game strategy in general that you have been able to adopt or adapt during this project. So the questions I have focus around that and on the importance or otherwise of the games that you're able to deploy. As a first opening question, Simon, at this point, how is the project going for you and for your organization?
The project is going well. I think the GBT project is on track. Project activities are taking place more or less as planned at the beginning of the project. And of course, some activities have been adapted to the pandemic situation. And for example, some face-to-face activities with stakeholders had to be cancelled or were carried out virtually. And yes, we have to thank all these online tools that we are actually using. We are currently using for this interview too. This, of course, has caused some delays in the realization of some activities, but currently we can say that we are on track. We are progressing. Yes, I have to say that at the European level, it seems to me that the activities have continued at a good level despite the pandemic. Regular online meetings with all the project partners have been organized, and this made it possible to work concretely on intellectual output and to discuss and fine-tune the result produced. I have to say that these online meetings were very productive and very useful. And yes, they permit to stay in touch with the other partners. And that was, I think, a big success because it was not easy.
That's very, and before I go on to the other questions, can I just ask you a bit more about that? Obviously, we've all been impacted by this COVID-19 situation. How were you able to make adaptations or modifications in the middle of the crisis? You did this internally or working with your own staff, or what were the kind of issues you faced?
Yes. As you know, in Switzerland, we focus on adult education, and in particular with regard to recovery of basic skills of vulnerable audiences. So people, low-skilled people, low-qualified people, and with this kind of audience or target group, it is sometimes difficult to work online because maybe they don't have the right tools or they don't have the competencies to work in a digital way. So we are trying to develop initiatives to transmit and transfer also what we have learned from the European project to our local context. And the first steps is to train the trainers, to train the coach that work with this audience, because yes, it's maybe 1 year that we are in this situation, but it's quite new. In fact, not all the people are used to use online tools and this kind of stuff. So yes, the activities that we carry out are mainly linked to the development of the intellectual outputs one, the guidebook for teaching with serious game, which is very important for us. And another point of interest concern intellectual output too. So the training program in gamification for teachers will be something very useful for us. And we think that the integration of game-based teaching tools is of great interest, and especially among trainers dealing with this audience that I told you before. So dealing with adults with low basic skills, and yeah, in vulnerable situation.
Okay, that's yeah, and obviously we've all been learning a huge amount in a
Yeah.
short amount of time because of this. Okay, so in terms of that, if we go back then, Simone, and what you're saying is very interesting. The strengths of the project in terms of the benefit to your organization, how would you summarize those now?
I would say that the fact of having a good number of partners with different experiences and competencies is a strength for the project and allow us to discuss and compare to what we do in Switzerland. But we have to say that our experience here in my region is quite limited. We have not a lot of experience, so the project was really interesting to acquire and exchange practices, knowledge, competences. This exchange is allowing us to gather a lot of information and acquire new skills that we would like and that we are trying to transfer to our territory. As I told you before, we are trying to transfer this knowledge and competencies to the trainers that will then use this kind of tools and this kind of approach based on games with the target group. It must say that at least in our country, at least in Switzerland, we have noticed that in the last year, due to the shift of many training activities from the classroom to the distance learning, there has been a growing interest in this kind of activity or on game-based approach to learning. So we have to say that yeah, the interest is growing up, and the integration of game-based activities seems to be really a useful tool to make distance learning more effective. Yes.
That's really interesting. So there are two things happening. One is the games themselves, the impact of this, and then the other one is our own practice
Yeah.
because of the need to move towards distance learning. I think that's very useful. Within that, I mean, is there anything at this stage? It might be a bit early. Is there anything you've actually changed in your organization thanks to this project?
Yes, I think that my organization and the stakeholders that work with us are now more conscious about the opportunity that game-based training approach can give, and we are starting. I have to say, we are really starting to learn more about the possibilities and the features offered by this approach, and we are trying to promote this approach wherever possible. And yeah, this is really a change also in the trainers, because yes, we really shift from classroom to other things. And I know that games are not only digital games. We are really conscious of that, but in this moment, I have to say that everything shifts to digital, so we really focus on this kind of tools and games.
That's a good point, because one thing I was going to ask you is, as we look at this, can you think of particular games or particular kinds of games that are really working for you? I know that even in our own meetings, we've been exposed to different kinds of games and backgrounds, but what are the kind of games that you're finding are really making a positive impact.
But we have started to experiment the use of some types of games, such as escape rooms, for example,
Mm,
uh, in limited group at the moment with adults, and particularly with adult trainers too. So we try to pilot the use of the escape rooms with trainers, and then trainers um, transfer the use of these tools with the students, and some other training, or some other games based on, for example, Google Maps,
mm.
mm, that are quite useful with our target group. Yes, because there are a lot of people in our target group that comes from migrants backgrounds. So they have, for example, to learn where this service is, where the office is for
Mm.
having, I don't know, or where the school is. Not at the moment, but of
Yeah, yeah.
course in the future it will
So very,
be.
very practical as well.
Yeah, very
Yeah, yeah,
practical. Yes. So we try to also use very practical games that really are connected with our context, with our reality, if I can say so.
yeah. It's very positive. That's excellent. It gives a very clear picture of the kind of impact it's having and the benefit for you. And as you keep describing your target group. Finally, Simone, just looking ahead a little bit, I know we still have time to go on this project, but what do you think the next steps would be for your organization? If you've talked about this, people are obviously talking about the results. Where do you see this maybe going over the next couple of months or year or two?
As I told you before, the use of the game-based methodology is still limited and little use in our context. And we think that the tools produced by the game-based training project will be very useful. So next step is to really um, exchange and discuss, for
Mm,
example, intellectual output 1 and 2 with our local stakeholders. We already
yeah.
started this, and we really we are trying to understand where we can use these kind of tools, and how we can transfer or successfully transfer the tools that will be the results of the project. So really, the next step is to to give uh, to give visibility to the products. Yes, this will be this will be really the next step. And we are trying to set up some workshop for the trainers, online workshop that will probably take place in the next months or before summer, so that yes, we try to widespread the results and the project approach.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, I think, for the next steps, and I like the idea with you finishing up about, visibility, and then let's look ahead and see how this can begin to work. It seems to have been working well, producing good stuff. And I'd like to thank you, Simone, again for your insights and your comments and your contribution. And let's see how we get on for the next stages of the project. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.